Matt Lombardi, and the purpose of this speech is to give a little bit of helpful information to people that may struggle with baking. Sometimes people get a little bit, don't have the proper knowledge when it comes like, baking, cakes or anything like that. So they tend to maybe get a little bit nervous and end up ruining their baked goods. So I just want to provide a little bit of knowledge that may help with that. This helpful information is going to include preparing your materials before you bake, preparing all your ingredients before you start, as well as any of the substitutions that you may need to make if you run out of an ingredient, and then also making sure to keep to the recipe, not stray away from it. We'll start off with baking materials. Whenever you start out, before you even get your ingredients together, make sure you gather all your baking materials. This can be deciding what kind of pan you're going to use to bake. In my example, I'm using a cake, so this is a 9x11 cake pan. Then you're going to want to gather all your mixing materials. This will include a large mixing bowl, as well as whether or not you want an electric mixer or a manual mixer. And then you might want to have a rubber spatula to scrape the sides of the bowl whenever you're putting the mix into the baking pan. Any additional materials that you may need include measuring spoons or measuring cups, depending on what your recipe calls for, as well as possibly some non-stick spray, once again if your recipe calls for it. Another thing you might want to remember before you get all your ingredients together is to preheat the oven. I think it's a good time to do it so you don't have to wait for it to preheat whenever you're done mixing everything together. Now you want to start gathering all your ingredients together. Depending on your recipe or the prepackaged mix that you're using, the recipe may need different ingredients. I would say gather all of your ingredients first to make sure that you have everything before you start mixing things together. And like I said, after gathering everything, see what substitutions you're going to have to make if you're missing anything, or just going out and buying the products that you need. Here's the recipe that I used for a chocolate cake. It calls for 3/4 cup butter, softened, 3 eggs, 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 3/4 cup unsweetened cocoa powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 3/4 teaspoon baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 2 cups sugar, 2 teaspoons vanilla, and 1.5 cups of milk. These are some common substitutions that you may find helpful when you're baking a cake. Let's say if you run out of butter or you don't have any at all, you can actually use equal parts margarine. Does the same thing. If you don't have any milk but you need some milk, you can use 1/4 cup powdered milk and 7/8 cup water. This will make about a cup of milk that you need, so you just have to make the right additions there. 1 ounce of unsweetened chocolate for every 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder needed. This is baking chocolate. You melt it down and you put it in the mix. You'll find many other substitutions in various cookbooks. Now I'm going to talk about following the recipe. Make sure you use the recipe exactly like it says. Don't try to alter it in any ways. This will include not trying to change the temp or the time that it's cooking. Don't think that you can increase the temperature and cook it for a less amount of time. You'll end up burning your cake or cooking unevenly. Also, don't estimate your ingredients. Use exactly what you're supposed to do. These are some helpful tips that you could use when baking the cake. Eggs and butter are best at room temperature, so leave them out, let them get to room temperature, maybe about 10 or 15 minutes before you start using them in your mix. Line the pan with wax paper, even if you already have to grease the pan. This will make the cake come out quite easily. Also use a toothpick to check if it's done. Stick the toothpick in the center of the cake. If it comes out clean, it means the cake's done. If it comes out with batter on it, it means that's not. Don't let pans touch in the oven. This is if you're using multiple pans while you put them in the oven. Don't let them touch because they'll throw off the heat of the pans. Also, with your dry ingredients, you should try sifting them to get out all the clumps, because otherwise they'll clump together. Even if it looks like it's mixed thoroughly, end up clumping together and won't turn out very well. So in conclusion, I just like to say that being prepared is the best way to succeed in baking. That'll be the single best thing whenever you're wanting to bake a cake. I hope this information will help those that struggle with baking.